as of the end of October, the government's going to enact new legislation that would bar protests of all kinds within a buffer zone of 150 metres of a clinic or a hospital providing abortion services. That will include even silent prayer. We have seen people arrested for standing silently outside an abortion clinic where women are walking in to go and get their terminations of their pregnancies and standing there silently. And extraordinary scenes where a police officer asked the woman, I think it was a woman or a man, and said, are you praying? Yes. Not even saying a word out loud and being arrested, literally for a thought crime. But let's talk about this with Caroline Farrow. She's a Catholic journalist and commentator and joins us now. Good morning to you, Caroline.
Morning, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. What do you make of this this ban on all protests, including silent prayer outside or within really a very big distance around an abortion clinic?
I think it's totally unnecessary and completely draconian. I mean, let's be very clear about this. Nobody condones harassment outside anywhere really, but particularly outside of abortion centres. But this is not what's happening. So last year, the government did a consultation before implementing this law, and the consultation concluded that this draconian law, more measures weren't necessary because we already have existing laws to deal with harassment. One of the things I find very unusual about this is that we hear lots of talk about the bad and egregious behaviour of the alleged protests or the alleged bad behaviour of those outside the clinics. But actually, in an age where we have the mobile phone is ubiquitous, for the past 10 years, everybody's had a mobile phone in their pockets. There's never been any actual photos of this harassment taking place. There's never been any videos. You speak to the people who are outside the centres and they say they have the clinic's cameras trained on them 24/7. So we never see...
You'd see if it was happening. It is kind of something that's been imported from America, some of those battles, hasn't it? That actually there has been harassment of women outside abortion clinics in America. Same as I think the conversion therapy obsession that the left have, which is that this is happening in America, so we must ban it here when it's not actually happening here. But here's the thing. I've never had an abortion, but I would certainly reserve the right to if I had ever needed one, to be able to go and get one legally in this country. And I'm very, I think our laws are just about right as we have them right now. I don't think that a woman who is facing that very traumatic experience, and I know a number of people who've had to go through that and found it one of the most awful, difficult decisions they had to make, and they did not make it lightly, to be facing people holding placards of fetuses and things like that, I just think is wrong and unnecessary. But someone standing outside silently, just silently, without a placard, just silently praying, I find it rather difficult to think that that is justified.
Well, I think there's two aspects here. I mean, those who are standing outside abortion centres aren't doing it to protest because, as you rightly say, there can be protests anywhere. But the reason why people are there is to offer outreach and help. And one thing that we never see... Yes, and one thing that we never see is interviews with the women who have been helped. Everyone wants to talk about, the nasty narrative, but actually there are so many women, and I know so many organisations who are desperate to put forward women who want to talk about how they were helped by people outside the abortion centres.
And they said they got offers of help, and therefore they felt they were able to carry on with their pregnancy.
And very often, people who, or I say people, it's only women who have abortions. Let's be very clear. Women who are having an abortion are doing so, are not made. Choices never made in a perfect vacuum, and they're under all sorts of pressures. I was at the March for Life weekend, and I was talking to someone from an organisation who was saying very often the women are asking the organisations if the men can go and speak to their men folk, because it's the men folk putting women under pressure. But yeah, to get back to your point...
I've got to be honest, every woman I know who's had an abortion, it's been very much their decision rather than... I'm not saying they will be the only people. But the key thing is here, though, at the end of the day, it is legal for some people to do. If people don't like the law, they want to change the law, they should be protesting outside Parliament. It's a perfectly legitimate thing for people to argue philosophically about. It's a perfectly legitimate debate, but they should be arguing with legislators, not a woman in her time of crisis. And I'm sorry, if people really cared, especially Catholics, really cared about, about avoiding abortion, massively fund and publicise all access to contraception, because that would mean fewer abortions.
I think we're going to go off down another rabbit hole. But, you know, I think you have to remember, and you know this full well, Julia, contraception is not 100% perfect. There is a failure.
Which is why women often need abortions. And this should be a matter between them and their doctor. And I'm not sure anyone else needs to be involved.